we've been telling people till we've been blue in the face, hey, you got to watch out for these phishing scams. And we even developed a course for people to go to, and we've even made a short video for people saying here are 9 ways to detect phishing. However, as we learned that most people ignore what they were taught, and even if you did manage to teach an entire organization, it's no guarantee that at least, I think the percentage was 15% would still click on a phishing email.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be nice if we were to go over some examples of how people are getting phished. So instead of telling them you should watch out for phishing, let's show them how
they get phished.
Yeah. So Sean, you've run several successful phishing campaigns for how should we ethical phishing campaigns?
Sure,
we'll call them to show people, show business owners just how bad their employees are about clicking on things they shouldn't, or things that they should know not to click on.
Sure.
Well, even one thing, even when Sean came in here today, it was talking about like you're just working on a client today that got phished, right?
Right.
It's common now. We have
just a little while ago, we had a client that had a compromised account, and we've kind of traced it back to, okay, here's that message that you clicked on, and you gave somebody your credentials, and using your credentials that you provided to them, they got into your account, they created these rules, and they've been reading all your email for the past month. So.
Yeah, even those the phishing pages that collect the passwords, some of them don't respond back that you got the correct password. Then you end up typing your other password, and then your other password, and then your other password, and it's just probably a long list of all your passwords they're probably collecting, right?
Sure.
Probably to a lot of other things too that you might have, not necessarily your work business, but other personal things too.
Or sometimes after you've entered your username and password, they forward you, to the website that they were pretending to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it didn't log me in. Let me try one more time. And then you get logged in. You
don't think anything about it. Yeah.
So
that's in the video.
And that's and actually that's in the examples that I put together. So.
Well, can we go through some examples?
Sure. So, what I did for these examples, they're real world examples that we've received as samples. And I've basically
successfully being phished
of people who received a phishing message, and they said, "Hey, is this a phishing message?" And I'm like, "Yes," and it's a really good one. And I put it in a folder over here. And
so they didn't get compromised. They had the foresight to ask whether or not they should open it first.
For these samples, they're probably ones that I received from people that said, "Hey, Sean, this looks suspicious." So
okay.
Often the ones where people are successfully compromised, we never hear about how or what that thing was that actually compromised them.
A lot of people don't know what compromised them, right? Because it looked legit.
And all they know is that they were, or they don't know how it happened, or sometimes aren't interested in how it happened. They just want the problem fixed.
So the examples you have today are ones that we've seen out there. They're very good.
Yeah.
And they're most likely people are being compromised on, but they're always changing. They're getting better, or they're manipulating some other little detail about it, or
right. And these examples that I have, like I said, they came from real world examples. These are ones that I have. I've sanitized them. So basically, these are ones that I've converted and I'm using for our own
ethical
phishing campaigns, and they're pretty good. These are very successful, and I would say these are probably the most successful when we're doing our own ethical phishing campaigns. But and even if I were to receive something like this, I might not even question it. That's how good these are. So,
yeah. Well, before you start, I want. This is usually how I start it. The days of the Crown Prince of Nigeria asking you to for your bank account so he can send you his fortune, that's over. They're not doing that anymore.
No,
they've gotten so good at pretending to be the person who they're impersonating that it's way more successful.
Yeah, and the thing is, once you get phished, once somebody gets those credentials, then they can pretend to be you because they essentially are you. They can send,
they're in the
from
mailbox
your account, and I know we talked about, an example in one of the previous videos that we did where, somebody actually compromised an account and, from that person that was compromised, they requested a wire transfer to an account that it shouldn't have gone to.
Wasn't a real one, right? Or
Yeah,
the
and that's
fraud one.
really common. So,
Are you familiar with the case in this building?
I heard about it, but I'm not intimately familiar with that case. No. So I heard something happened.
Well, we'll see if one of your examples
So
is what happened.
So yeah. So
Well, let's go through it, one, two.
Let's do it.
So one of the ones that I have here is for users on 365. There's a feature in Office 365 that lets you send quarantine notifications to users. Whenever you have an email that is sent to you that gets quarantined, an administrator and your tenant can set things up so that you get quarantine notifications on a regular basis that basically tells you what items have been sent to you that get quarantined. My first example here is a quarantine notification that didn't come from Microsoft. This quarantine notification came from my phishing server and looks just like a quarantine notification that comes from Microsoft.
Of his screen.
So in this email here, it's an email that Office 365, actually quarantine at messaging.microsoft.com, sent me an email telling me that this email from Ingram got quarantined for some reason, which is kind of suspicious, but, looking at that subject, the subject on this is new 2020 pay scale. I'm kind of interested in what that is. So
What is that?
I might just click on that link to release the inbox. So, if I go in and do the same thing that I would normally do, if I see something that's in my quarantine that I think I should look at, I'm just going to release that to inbox. When I click on that link, it takes me to, an Office 365 login page. And I'm like, okay, to me, I can look at this and I know for a fact that this is not correct because, there's several things on this page that you wouldn't normally see on a 365 login page. For example, it doesn't ask you for both your email address and password. Another example, that address that's showing in the address bar up here is completely wrong. That's definitely not a Microsoft domain. But if I'm...
My eyes are pretty poor. Can you, what domain does it say?
If I'm not, it's just an IP address. So,
Oh, okay.
in this case, it's just an IP address, but this, if this weren't an example that I had just sent myself, this could be based on a domain that, looks similar to Microsoft.com.
Right.
And
Or maybe it's the same domain with a misspelling in it, so
Yeah.
it looks like exactly
They
like
switched
the
the F and the T at the very end.
Sure. Or sometimes they don't bother to do that. They just do the same thing I did here, where it's just an IP address because people don't look
Check,
in the
yeah.
address bar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's the login page, and I need to log in. So when I enter my email and password on this page, actually, I'll just give you an example. On .com. Oops. And this is my password. Whatever. When I enter that information and sign in, actually, I got an error this time, but
Mm-hmm.
I needed to look at that. What that should have done is redirected me to my normal portal.office.com login.
So it looked like you just need to log in one more time.
Yeah,
Or it
it's
probably
like-
logged in because you're already logged into Portal.
Or like,
Right.
oh, maybe I entered my password wrong.
Right.
Let me do it again.
Right.
But as soon as you do that, I captured those credentials. Those the phisher, the person who sent this phishing message, they have your credentials now. And if you don't realize the fact that they just captured that, then they can get right into your account and do whatever they want.
They just take that username and password and log right into your 365 account.
Yep. So this is a really a very specific example, but it's a really good example because this is something that's actually out there in the wild. Spammers, phishing folks.
It looks just like that, right? When you receive a spam.
It looks just
I mean,
like this. So I mean, this is exactly what a quarantine notification.
I mean, in our world, we live this stuff, and so we're very suspicious of little details. For most people, though, that are maybe not into computers like we are,
sure.
they're could be fooled by that very easily.
Well, and something that you can see in this one, something that we do in our organization, which is something that it's a feature that we offer to all of our clients is this option to add this flag in the email that tells us when an email is coming in from outside. So, seeing that flag there makes me think, maybe that is suspicious.
Right.
So that normally wouldn't appear on this type of email.
Yeah.
Or an email that comes from Ingram asking me to set up a wire transfer. If that had a flag in it, okay, that's not right. That thing shouldn't be there because it didn't come from the outside; it came from the inside.
So because this is so convincing,
Mm-hmm.
what can people do to notice that it's not a legitimate message?
When you look at the links, like I can mouse over the link and I can see, okay, this is not going to, this is not going to the place where it should be going. This is going to a different domain. It's going, in this case, it's going to an IP address, which shouldn't happen in any Microsoft mail. Also, just the fact that it looks kind of suspicious. We use Teams. If I got an email from Ingram and I was suspicious about it, I would probably just poke him in Teams and say, hey, did you send me something? And, he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, okay, maybe I should report this message to myself since, I'm the one that's going to look at them anyway.
I tend to send you a lot of
you do
clever
actually,
messages a lot.
Yeah, and that's I appreciate that. Actually one of the examples that I have here is something that I received from you, and then I went in and tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah.
When I sanitized it for using.
I get some good ones, and I'm always like, this is a really good. It got me almost.
Yeah.
If I could just go back 1 second,
Mm-hmm.
something important that you said.
Uh-huh.
When you get a suspicious message, you contact the person that you think sent the message
Sure.
and verify that they did or did not
Sure.
send it.
Totally.
However, how you did that is important, because you did not reply to that email
No.
and ask them, hey, is this really from you?
No, it's send it through Teams.
You had to send it through an alternative method.
Mhm.
So you would either have to call Ingram, or you would have to hit him up on Teams, or some other method other than responding to that email, because you're responding to the phishing person and you're not responding to him.
And people, since I manage a lot of the phishing campaign stuff, something that happens here a lot is whenever somebody gets a phishing message, they immediately contact me to be like,
Yeah.
like,
It's the curse.
hey, are you trying to phish me again? You didn't get me this time.